Okay, today we're in Steve's basement of speed, and you can see I got two rebuild kits, and I got them from Barbo's, and they are quite inclusive. You can see here that they come with the capacitor, which I think this is a varistor, which is two diodes back to back. This is the old style right here, capacitor. This one actually is good. You can test it with an ohm meter, old style ohm meter. If the needle jumps when you change polarities, then it's good. It comes with most of the gaskets. It comes with the toggle arm. You can see that it comes with a new pin. These pins are case hardened, so you can't substitute anything for them. You have to use a SU type of pin. Comes with the diaphragm here, new spring, and filters. Okay, I've had a couple of terminals here. I stripped the wire back, and now I'm going to solder the terminal on there. And that's it. The reason for this is that the connections here, they were a little bit bad and the wire was a little bit frayed, so I cut it back just a tad. You'll notice the smaller terminal, which is a 1BA, is on the longer wire, and the 2BA terminal stud is, or terminal is for the larger, shorter wire. Not larger wire, but shorter wire. Okay, I'm going to check the coil now to make sure the coil is okay. It should be about 3 ohms. You can see we're running about 3.2 ohms. The other thing is I use a liquid tape, and on this particular coil it's a little bit frayed down in here. I'm afraid it may short out. So I'm going to cover it with some liquid tape to give it some insulation. Okay, I'm going to start assembling the rocker here, which that's the rocker. But first you have to input the square bolt in here. There is a square place on the back where it fits in. Now it will go on either side, and also you have to line it up with here. If you go this way, you'll notice the holes, it's off center. So it'll only go one way, and the wires will come out at the appropriate place. So anyway, what I do is I put that in first, then I'm going to assemble the rocker assembly. Now this rocker assembly, the spring has to be down like that, and you'll see then the holes will line up, and the pin, which this is a case hardened pin and you should never substitute anything, will fit through here, and it will fit through these here. Okay, I've got the pin in, and I've got it fairly centered. You can push it a little bit. It's kind of stiff, but you want to get it centered. And the next step is you turn it over. Also, too, you need to make sure this moves freely, and all of it is free to move. Okay, it toggles okay, like that. Okay, then I flip it over, put the 2BA nut on there, and it's an extra thick nut. Then there's a little lead washer, and you put this on the 2BA terminal. Coming out of there, okay. Then you put your lead washer on, and this is a cupped, wrong one. This is a cupped washer. You can see that it's got a cup inside it that goes over that lead. That gives you a much secure contact. Okay, I've got the lug there, you can see it's square in that hole. As you tighten it up, you want to make sure it's not sideways or you will crack the base here. The next step you have is you take a spring washer, put it on there, and you're going to attach the pedestal here with the ground lead. The ground lead. Through the hole. And two things, as you tighten this down, you want to hold that ground lead so that it does not tear it off of the contact assembly. And the second thing is you don't want to tighten it down too tight because you can crack this base, which is a Bakelite. Okay, we're going to put the diaphragm in here, and you'll notice that it has a little bumper washer on it, and that needs to be on there. The diaphragms usually come with that already on there. It's not a separate piece, but that needs to be inserted as such. Need to make sure the surfaces are clean. Another item is I clean my surfaces because you're going to have joint gaskets, so I take them on a piece of emery cloth and go over them, and any joint with a gasket, what will happen is you'll see you have a nice clean flat surface all the way around here. I'm going to insert this in there now and screw it in. Okay, until it stops. Carefully until it stops. So I'm screwing it in there. Okay, I made a mistake there on the video. I actually put this back in. It's got a spring in it. And the big end goes towards the coil, and it goes on there like that before you insert it. So a little correction, got to take everything apart at least once. So anyway, I've screwed this in now, and you can see the contact points will actually move when I put it down. In other words, it's toggling. Okay, you can see it there. It's moving with the springs. And if I move it a little bit in, I don't get the contact movement. So I move it out a little bit. Now it toggles. Okay, so you've got it where it toggles, and that's where you want to be. Okay, I've got it where it toggles, and you can see I've got this hole right here is lined up. Okay. I had to move it a tad, letting it off to the first hole. So it was right here, and then I let it off till the hole lined up. Now I'm going to have to let it off 4 holes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This one will end up right there. Okay, now you're set. Okay, now you hold it up vertical. And I like to start where this little lug is, but you bend it up, and then you start inserting these on, make sure they get under the flat plate. Okay, this is the last one. There's 11 of them. So you slip that on in, okay, and you should be good. This kit was supplied with a varistor. They're polarized, and it has a small end and a large end, and the small end will go with this, the contact. Then you have a screw with a small lock washer, and you put it in there, put it in there, and put it in there, and then you screw it on in. Okay, so I got the screw in there. Now this has some adjustment to it. You want to make sure you get your contact straight. Hold that contact down and tighten it in. Okay, now check and see that your contacts here are making contact and that they are straight. Okay, there is a little bit of adjustment because the contact arm has a slot in it so you can move it in and out and sideways. Okay, the contact here, you have to put the contact in, and I showed you how to do that, but to bend it I loosen the screw and it makes a secure place, and you can bend it up and down a little bit to make your adjustment. But what you want to do is slip a feeler gauge in, and it needs to be 0.035, and you get that distance in there. Also, if you've got it right, as you push it in, you'll see the contact just barely lifts up at the end of the cycle, so it's making and breaking contact. Additionally, what you do is with a pair of pliers, and I use three, a .025, a .03, and a .035, but the contact right underneath here, you put a feeler gauge in there and you should be able to, right there. If it isn't the right, you can take a pair of needle nose and bend it gently to get it in that position. So there we go. That's your adjustments on your contacts. Okay, now I'm taking the screw out here that had our ground on it, and your varistor goes between your coil and your ground. So I'm going to take this out at this time, insert that in there, insert that in there, get your washer on there and get it back through the hole and screw it down. I'm going to make sure this varistor does not come in contact with the points, as well as going through it here. You want to make sure these wires on the side don't rub against any of your pivot points, and you want to make sure your ground wire is nice and free, and I'm going to hold that as I tighten it back up so it does not rotate on me and pull it off the bottom set of points. Once again, as I've tightened this screw down with the varistor on it, and it can be a capacitor or a varistor. The varistor is a current limiting diode arrangement, as I recall, and so that's what was provided with this kit, which is a voltage clamping deal, which is probably better than the original capacitors that they put in there. Okay, so I've got all that in, and now you take your little rubber sealing washer and put it over there. And you can put your cap, oh, by the way, before you put your cap on, you see how I have clearance there on my contacts. It's not interfering, none of the wires are interfering. Then you put your cap back on, like so. And it should come right down. There we go. Comes right down on there. Okay, so I slipped the cover on, and you'll notice underneath here, I got this over under the compartment where it's meant to be. That's where the original large capacitor here was. And so I slipped that on, put my washer on, and I put my nut on. And then I pull that down tight against that locking washer we put underneath, the sealing washer. And we're good. Now I take some electrical tape here, and I'm going to run it around here to seal this. And I'm going to go around a couple of times. like that. And there we go. Now we're ready to put it on the livery hub.